Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Minnesota House District 54B Candidates Forum, sponsored by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. We are gathered tonight here at Shakopee High School. My name is John Anderson. I am a media consultant for my own business, John Anderson Communications. Before that, I spent 37 years in TV news as an anchor, reporter, producer, writer, and manager. I will be serving as the moderator of tonight's debate. All candidates for Minnesota House District 54B were invited to participate, and with us this evening, we have Representative Ben Bakeberg and Jean Lee. Thank you both for being here. Candidates are arranged in alphabetical order. Candidates have already recorded video interviews to introduce themselves to you, the community, and you can see those online, so the candidates will not be making opening statements tonight as part of this program. But we do encourage you to go online and check out those videos. Tonight, the candidates will be asked a series of questions. They'll have 60 seconds to respond. They also have 4 opportunities to make rebuttal comments. Those are 30 seconds. Candidates participating in tonight's forum have been given the option to receive a printed handout of each question as it is read for this debate. Candidates, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, Representative, we're going to start with you with question number 1. What are the most important issues you would like to address in the next legislative session?
Thank you for the question, and before we dive in, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this, and I think as Representative Tabke talked about, we don't have a paper in Shakopee and Jordan and Prior Lake, so this is an important avenue to get information out so people can hear from both Ms. Lee and I. So for me, it's really simple. The 2 issues that I want to focus on are economic issues, those meat and potato issues that we're dealing with when we go to the grocery store, bringing down costs for our families that are being hit with the rising prices. And then the other thing is education. So in my normal job, I'm a middle school principal, and I'm passionate about education. I'm actually the only current administrator serving in any level of state government. So I bring a unique perspective on what we need to be doing in education to get our schools back on track. Because under Governor Walz and the leadership of the DFL, test scores for students in reading have decreased 16%, math 17%, and science by 23%.
Thank you. Ms. Lee?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate you letting me use the wheelchair for this instead of standing up. As far as the most important issues to address, education is a top priority, and this is education for all ages, from preschool on up to even as you're an adult and aging, you're learning things. And it should be world class, it should be excellent, and I'm for that. I helped Congress and the United Nations bring education to high schoolers so that they could be our future CEOs and heads of state. Economy, great jobs with good pay. There's a need for that. The economic development of our cities is important. We need to be available so that we could encourage businesses to come and build in here and bring other people from other states to. Okay.
Thank you. Let's go on to question number 2. And Ms. Lee, we'll start with you. When considering an important issue, how would you resolve any differences between your personal views and the opinion of a majority of your constituents or the position of your party?
Thank you. As far as my personal issues, I have always placed people ahead of myself. My first priority would be to constituents and helping them solve their problems and their issues, working hard for them so we have good, strong families and communities and a future, bright futures. As far as my party, one thing I know is that there has been differences between where the constituents might stand on an issue and where the party stands. And I have seen other DFLers take the position that we support the people. And that would be my position, is we support you, the constituents.
Okay. Representative?
Thank you. really that's what I do every day in my professional job. So my personal feelings when I walk into school are put aside, and I have to do what's best for the students in the building and the teachers and the educators that I work with on a daily basis. It really gets down to my approach of listening, learning, so that I can lead best for my constituents. And that's what I did in my first session, and that's what I would continue to do. An example of this, there was a bill that I was told by leadership in my own party that, we don't support that type of bill in our party. And I just said, it's interesting because all 3 cities that I represent are asking for this. It was about a fee and allowing local control to charge a street impact fee for development to pay for themselves. And I was a co-author on that bill because I believe in supporting our local communities and being a representative of our local community, not a Republican Party.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to question number 3, and Representative, we will start with you on this one. How should the legislature respond to the state budget surplus next year given the forecasted deficit moving forward?
Oh, that was me. I thought
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm Representative Bakeberg. Thank you for the reminder. So I think we have, the projection is a $3 billion surplus, and then you project out into the future, and we have a structural imbalance. And a lot of people are like, what in the world does that mean, Ben? Just on a basic level, that means we've overspent. Like, when you project out in the future, what we have allocated is overspending what we're going to be bringing in. So that really leads to we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. No different than our own family budget. We either have to raise expenses, and that's taxes. And in this last session, we had an $18 billion surplus. We raised taxes, not we, I didn't vote for it, but the DFL raised taxes by another $10 billion, and that's still not enough because we have a structural imbalance in the future. We have to get spending under control so that we can serve our communities.
Okay. Jean?
Yes. I also found out that there's an accounting issue regarding how they project surplus versus deficit. So I've seen where there might be a deficit in 1 month, and then shortly thereafter it shows as a surplus. So in that particular instance, it was an accounting issue as far as how they were calculating things. So I would really dig deep and say, where are we spending? Where are we overspending? How can we cut costs? Because one of the issues that I have focused on in all my years doing legislative work is reducing the costs as far as making things affordable for people and reducing the type of spending by government that shouldn't be spent. As far as the forecasted deficit, I'm conservative, so I always believe that there should be spending, and there should be, if they're projecting a deficit for the future, we need to be prepared for that, and we need to do some allocations so that there really isn't a deficit.
Time. Very good. Question number 4, and Jean, we will start with you on this one. What is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness?
I would say that Minnesota is growing in their economy. I handle things as far as growing the economy, not just at the local city, county, but at the state, national, and global areas. So that even like for farmers, most of their income, for many of them, come from the global economy. And to help promote that and promote Minnesota nationwide, and we've done some remarkable things in getting awards in what we do with our economy and how competitive we are in businesses. I know a lot of different areas since I work with many small businesses on up as far as how to be competitive, not just within the own arena, but like I say, nationally and globally. And so I do know how some of the others are trying to build their states, and
Time.
okay.
Ben, your response.
Thank you. Yesterday I went on a tour of Rademacher's. It's the grocery store in Jordan. And was just fascinating to hear their perspective. They employ a little over 50 employees, from a 15-year-old all the way up to people in our elderly community, and they love working there. But we were talking about business competitiveness, and he got one of the people giving the tour got pretty fired up when he heard about this price gouging. You've probably heard a lot that Democrats are talking about that these businesses are gouging prices. And their profit margin, what I learned, is 1.6% profit margin at Rademacher's grocery store. They have to sell so much volume of product, and then if there's any mandates, any increased fees, any increased taxes, energy costs, all of these things are playing into it, and those were all decisions made in this last legislative cycle that's impacting our community.
Thank you. We're going to move on to question number 5 now, and Representative, you will start here. Minnesota's corporate income tax rate is the highest in the nation. Minnesota's top individual income tax rate is the 6th highest in the nation. Would you support lowering Minnesota's corporate and/or individual income tax rates?
Absolutely, I would. And you hear when you talk with our business owners that they stay in Minnesota because of our robust and amazing workforce. I'd like to say that it's maybe because of the fantastic educational system that we have. I might be a little biased there. But businesses stay in Minnesota because of the employees and the people, the high quality of people that they can hire. They leave because they're being saddled with taxes and mandates over and over again. So we have to work with our businesses, and I think that's really the biggest thing that I see and what I've learned in this last legislative session is that we need to restore balance in Minnesota. And when we restore balance in Minnesota, we will all be able to come to the table, roll up our sleeves, and solve problems for our community. Even Representative Gene Pawlowski, a retiring Democrat, just the other day said that it would be better for Minnesota if Republicans took control of the House.
Gene?
Yes, I would agree with most of what Ben said, except for the comment on the Republicans, because I think that there are Democrats who can also do just as well. I'm a former Fortune 500 corporate auditor, so I have audited and seen where there has been overtaxation in some areas, overregulation. Those things need to change. Also for individual income taxes, where those need to change and be lower for people. I've heard from people in the community and in businesses where they are being affected. And I think that there are solutions to that, and I'm willing to work on the solutions. As far as I agree that there have been businesses who have moved out of state because of the taxes, but Minnesota has all these other things that attract them as far as the health care, the education, the living, and so forth. And again, as far as I got endorsement from Education Minnesota to improve on the education, and I was with the governor's cabinet to improve education.
We're going to move on to question number 6, and this one, Gene, you will go first. Do you believe that the state should determine private sector workplace benefits?
I would say no, just from the standpoint of corporations vary as far as where they place their emphasis on benefits. I think the state can contribute as far as saying that there are certain basic things that should be covered in benefits that everybody wants who's employed, like the health care, the pensions, and being covered by insurance. And in those instances, there are things where the state needs to intervene so that things are equitable for the employees and for the businesses. But as far as what benefits beyond some of the basic benefits, it pretty much is up to the corporations, because some are just startups, all the way to those who can have a lot of money that can afford to give employees more benefits. So it depends.
Ben?
No, I don't. A one-size-fits-all model does not work. And I think we saw that, or we are seeing that with the paid family medical leave program that was passed last year. Now, I think I want to take a step back, because all of us, we want to make sure that when a family member is ill, when someone has a baby, when we need to be with a family member, we should have opportunities to be there. And there was an option. Actually, Senator Pratt was the chief author in the Senate. Dave Baker was the chief author in the House. And it was a common sense solution to be able to address paid family medical leave so that we could be with our loved ones in their time of need. This is just a prime example of why we need balance in state government. This is why we need to make sure that we're working together to find the best solutions for Minnesotans. And we actually had to raise the contribution amount last session.
Time.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you both. Question number 7, Representative, we're going to start with you on this one. Would you suggest any changes to the recently adopted workplace benefit legislation, such as earned sick and safe time or paid leave benefits?
I should have used my extra, maybe just rolled right into this question. But I think it really goes into it. Last session, for paid family medical leave, initially it was a 0.7 payroll tax. So what that means is that the employer and the employee were going to pay into this payroll tax so that we could have paid family medical leave for everyone. Now, the educators that I talked to, they were really excited until they found out that they were going to have to pay that. Well, in the last session, we had to increase that because there wasn't enough in the actuarials already. So that was increased to 0.88, and the cap is at 1.2. So every single employee is going to get a 0.6% payroll cut because of this tax. So I would roll up our sleeves and really look at this holistically and work with our communities, with our businesses, and with our employees.
Okay. Ms. Lee?
Yes, I agree that we need to work with the businesses, the employees, and the community as far as what's being spent on this. But as far as the progress that they have made as far as getting earned sick leave and safe time and paid leave, I think those are all necessary because families have different reasons for needing these different things, and I know it wasn't available in my time when I was working 2 to 3 jobs at the same time. And so we didn't have any of these benefits, so I certainly see where it's needed, and more can be done to improve on this system. But we need to collaboratively work on it and see where the needs are, and that's where I say there needs to be additional enhancements as far as what everybody needs. So, thank you.
Okay. We're moving on now to question number 8, and we're going to start with you, Jean. What are the top issues regarding policing and public safety?
I think for the schools, there are concerns still about public safety in the workplaces still regarding the public safety. I was part of President Clinton's efforts and Ramsey County and Hennepin County's efforts to reduce school violence, where we put police into the schools as part of it, and they had other programs related to working with law enforcement, also with the workplace. I think that, and I was part of the national effort too, to do this from the national level, because you heard all the stories of different things happening, violence happening in schools and workplaces. So we had to address that. Problem's not completely solved, and so there does need to be more enhancement, but I think working together with law enforcement, and I was part of working on their model arrests and prosecution, so we do know that more can be done.
Okay. Ben?
Thank you. Public safety is one of our foundational pieces that we need to continue to address, and just fundamentally, it starts with respect. We need to get back to respecting the brave men and women that protect us. That has been lost, and that has been lost across our society, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I'm part of a group called the Suburban Solutions Caucus, and the reason we are all Republicans, and the reason we formed this caucus is because we want to solve problems for our community. And one of the initiatives that we put forth was the 365-day initiative for law enforcement. We need to be there for law enforcement 365 days a year, not just when there's tragedy. We need to be there every single day. And that initiative outlines proposals talking to recruitment and retention of law enforcement to be able to grow the profession and respect the profession.
Question number 9, Representative, we're going to start with you on this one. We're still talking about safety. What do you believe should be done to enhance safety at our schools?
Yeah, I mean, I live this every single day. We just did a lockdown drill earlier this week, and if you talk to any educator, what it really boils down to is relationships. So we need to be able to have the staffing to be able to give educators the opportunity to build relationships with kids and get to know kids. That's the foundational piece that we need to do to make sure that our schools are safe. One of my colleagues, Elliot Engen from the North Metro, he has an initiative called the SHIELD Act to be able to make our schools more and more safe without the strict hardening features that you see. So those are things that we can invest in, but we made choices not to invest in that. Instead, we invested in a $730 million state office building for one block in St. Paul. We could have taken that money and invested it across our schools.
Ms. Lee, your response?
Yes. The issue as far as safety in the schools is more than just having police officers there. I think we have to address the issues as far as what's affecting students that would cause them to reach that point, or others outside of the community to come into the schools to reach that point. Obviously, we need to protect our students first, but we need to address if there are, and there are signs as far as if kids are having trouble or there's certain things that are happening that they are potential, for having, being affected by violence. And these, we need more mental health professionals to be able to handle, working with the students, talking to that, resolving issues there, resolving issues that might be at home or in the community where they need that help. And also involve the community, because there's a lot of community resources out there who know how to deal with these issues, who can help solve the problem.
Ms. Lee, you will start here on this next question. This is question number 10. What is your position regarding abortion, and in what circumstances should abortion be allowed or prohibited in the state of Minnesota?
I believe in the sanctity of all life from beginning to end, including seniors, and I think that has to be respected. It's really up to the individual who's having to make that decision, their family and the doctors. And I think each circumstance might be different as to those who might decide that it's needed for them. There could be medical issues. It could be a choice between, do you save the mother or the child? And those are hard decisions, and those are things that we really shouldn't get involved, but it's more for the family to deal with and to support them in their decisions. So as far as whether it should be allowed or prohibited, I think it just depends on the circumstances where the person it might be needed or not.
Representative?
Thank you. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-family, unashamedly. I think we have to, when we talk about these issues, we have to lead with compassion. Anyone that is in a situation of an unplanned pregnancy, They're in a difficult spot, and we need to lead with compassion. Being pro-life and pro-family for me means that we need to come alongside those individuals. We need to support our families that are struggling with infertility. We need to support adoption and expand adoption options. We also have to be honest about what happened in the last session. Minnesota now is on par with North Korea and China in regards to abortion laws. A baby can be aborted up until the moment of birth, and we remove protections for babies that are born alive after an abortion. That is a fact. That is a fact. You can look it up. Even my pro-choice friends say that that's extreme. This is a personal issue, and this is a personal issue for my wife and I, because a young woman chose life for her unexpected baby, and we had the privilege to adopt that little boy and complete our family.
Question number 11, and Ben, we're going to start with you on this one. What role, if any, should the state have in gender-affirming care of minors?
Yeah, thank you for asking this question, because I think the first thing we have to think about in the question is minors. Those are kids. Those are our kids, our most valuable possession. So we have to, first and foremost, love that kid wherever they are at. We have to come alongside that kid wherever they are at. And what I have learned professionally my entire career is that kids are looking for connection and community. And once a kid reaches adulthood, we in a society, we can make choices as adults, but we should not be allowing kids to make permanent decisions for them. We need to come alongside. We need to love those kids. We need to support those kids. That's what I've done my entire professional life. But we need to support kids, and sometimes the best thing to do is to say, no, we're not going to do that now. And that's what I would continue to do.
Okay. Jean?
I would have to agree with Ben on this, because this is an issue, again, between the parents and the minors. And although the parents have some say in what the minor is doing, this is very... it has a lot of ramifications, and it has a lot of long-term effects that could be harmful. And it depends, again, on the family and what circumstances the child is growing up in. And if they're an adult, they can better make a decision. But I think the state should, as they say, butt out.
Okay. Question number 12, and Ms. Lee, you're going to start on this one. Do you support the legalization of sports betting? And if so, who should have the license to offer sports betting?
I think it's okay to have sports betting. I mean, that's been going on since, I say, biblical times. I have even bet on sports. As far as who should be able to offer it, I think it just depends. I think there are many companies that are interested and want to have sports betting within their business. I think that was an issue when a lot of companies wanted the slot machines. But there is a body that handles gambling, so they have to work with, for example, the tribes and the government. And I think the government was fair in saying they should get a portion of it because of the effects that as far as the negative effects that sports has with some people that they had to pay for later, as far as helping them with programs and things like that. So as far as it's a collaboration as far as being able to offer it and how it's offered and who gets to participate or who gets benefits from it.
Okay. Ben?
Yeah. If you listen to my candidate interview, I was very honest. This is a very difficult one for me. On one hand, I really feel like we should be able to choose to live our lives however we choose to live. And if we want to spend our money on sports betting and gambling or whatever, we should be able to do that. On the other hand, there is significant research, and Ms. Lee talked about that, and I have struggles with the addiction side of it. And even in last session, I went to multiple sessions from different sports betting providers about the guardrails that they have in place to be able to to protect the addictive side of things. And I still have significant concerns, to be honest. So that would have to be addressed significantly for me to support sports betting. I've been honest about that as well. But what I can tell you is that in any situation, but this one in particular, we have to work with the stakeholders to be able to come to consensus so that we have balance in this.
Okay, we're going to talk about question 13 now, and Representative, you will start on this one. Do you believe the state government should address climate change, and if so, what kind of measures would you support?
I think we start out, and you hear the word climate change, and people, depending on their perspective, they will run to the corners, and I think this is one of the problems with our political culture is we can't have honest conversations. So I think at a core level, all of us want our environment to be clean. I was a co-author on the Keep It Clean bill that basically, if you littered on the lakes when they're frozen, the same penalties applied. But what we need to do is have an all of the above approach to energy, and hopefully future Representative Paul talked about. At scale a few years ago, all of the energy companies said we can get to 80%. We have no idea how we're going to get the rest of the way there. That's a prime example of us not having balance and one size fits all approach. This is the prime example of it, and we need to address this.
Ms. Lee?
Yes. As far as climate change, I know things have gotten more excessive as far as the heat spells or the wildfires and things that happen as a result. What I see is, and have worked on, was how it also affects our air quality and our being able to breathe. So I have worked on legislation related to having the freedom to breathe, having whatever pollutes the air be controlled. So that ranges all the way from businesses that pollute the air to our cars to now they're doing electric buses, so there's less pollution that affects the climate. And way back many years ago, they used to say that climate change was a result of using aerosol cans. But I believe in science, where science has to prove what's causing climate change and what we need to do to reduce it and to make changes. So.
Ms. Lee, you'll start on question 14. What, if any, changes are needed in state support for post-secondary education?
I totally support post-secondary education and even beyond. Like I said, even as you grow for the seniors and the elderly, they still need education there too. So it goes past post-secondary education. I think what has been helpful is that the schools have worked with the government as far as being able to provide free education. We especially need free education when it comes down to helping educate those future employees of businesses where we are short on employees, like in healthcare, like in, they even say in businesses they are short of employees. And so there are different sectors that are saying they're short of employees. So to the extent we can help educate them so that they are prepared for these businesses and to give us good jobs and good revenue, I think we should be able to do that. So, and there's, like I say, it's a collaboration here too.
Ben?
Yeah, thank you. I think we need to have an honest conversation about, and I like to call them the 3 E's. Kids that enroll, kids that enlist, or kids that go into the workforce and are employed. Not every kid needs to go into the traditional 4-year institution. I was just having a conversation at Heimat Fest. It's a festival in Jordan, and a kid is going into an 18-month lineman program, and he's been dreaming about his whole life. He's went into that program. He's going to graduate here soon and do really, really well. We need to get into a place in our high schools where we're creating pathways. That's where the Innovation Hub would be instrumental. But we also have to address the cost of higher ed for those kids that choose to enroll. And actually, I heard from a constituent recently, just before can I just use this now? All right. Just before their son and daughter went off to college, they got a letter from the different institutions saying that their state grant program had been cut. So those of you that have kids in college, it's public, private, state grants across Minnesota were cut. And it was, I was just on a call with someone from the Higher Ed Commission, and it was a conscious choice by the DFL majority to not address the issue that we knew about at the beginning of the session. And that led to kids, middle-class kids, getting their state grant cut to the point of $10,000. So we have to address cost and the grant program.
Okay, next question, and Ben, we're going to start with you on number 15 here. Do you believe the funding of schools should come primarily from local property taxes or state taxes, and explain why?
I only have a minute for this, huh? So, so I think at a very basic level, foundational level, what we require from the state, we should be funding. So, and then if a school district chooses to go above and beyond whatever is required, then they can go out to their local taxpayers for that. Here's the thing, though. What has happened in the last legislative session, you're going to hear historic funding into education. And they're not lying. The target was historic, but the mandates that came on those were like, there were over 65 mandates. And the simplest way I describe it is if I gave Jean $1,000 and then I tell her, Jean, you can do whatever you want, and then behind the scenes I say, nope, you only can spend 100 of it how you want. That's what happened in this last session. The legislature mandated local school districts to do things local schools weren't asking for. That's why we need balance in state government, and that's what I would bring again.
Time. Jean?
There has been contributions to education from all areas as far as the cities, the counties, and the state, but I would say even from the federal government. I think there's balance and there's other pockets to pick. I was just with some what they call entrepreneurs, where they were learning, and the schools were involved, the universities were involved as far as helping young people build startup companies, and all the way to helping them make a lot of profit. And that type of education, we had what they call the venture capitalists, the angels, the philanthropists, the banks, and other people who could help with the costs as far as the education. And what I had suggested was that we start schools so that they could partake and involve students in that and be able to help fund schools that way.
Jean, we're going to start with you here on this next question. Please explain why we have the fiscal disparities tax on commercial properties, and do you think it's fair?
I think it says in itself, as far as the disparities on taxes, I'm against, or I will try and fix as far as problems and disparities. So it means inequities. So I haven't seen as much as far as the commercial properties and how they are taxed. I do know that when you buy property, they have a larger payment towards realtors than normal as far as fees and so on. And I do think that it has also affected how we're seeing a decline in some of our commercial properties and a decline in businesses who rent or lease in these commercial properties. So I think there's a bigger problem behind that needs to be looked at. And of course, being an auditor, I would delve more into saying why is that disparities and how do we find the solution and how do we fix it? So.
But time. Representative?
Yeah, fiscal disparity is very similar to equalization within the K-12 system, and it basically says that property districts or communities with with high-value properties or rich tax base, or not rich, but they're paying into a fund to be able to offset for property poor districts. So equalization, fiscal disparity. I think the biggest thing that we've talked about is the giant missed opportunity to really do significant tax reform in this last session. We had a historic surplus, $18 billion, and taxes were raised by another $10 billion. Government grew by 40%. But we weren't able to address some of these issues. And you know, from a school district standpoint, there are schools that have thousands of dollars less per pupil than other districts. And it's just not sustainable, and we have to work together to find out solutions to that.
Representative, you're going to start the next question. What is the most significant transportation issue facing our community, and how should it be addressed at the state level?
Yeah, I mean, Representative Tabke talked about road safety, and one of my priorities coming in was the 169-282 interchange in Jordan. And I was proud to work with Representative Tabke to be able to get that done, Representative Hornstein, and you know, it was up and down throughout, but that is a critical intersection for all of Minnesota. It's the last stoplight from St. Peter up until the North Metro. So you think about all of the ag, all of the industry coming from southern Minnesota up to the ports of Savage. So we need to be investing in our critical infrastructure to be able to do that. And it goes back to choices, and I've talked about this already, but the state office building, literally one block in St. Paul, we're spending $730 million on for an office building for politicians that are there part-time. Those are irresponsible choices.
Ms. Lee?
I would say beyond the issue as far as needing the necessary roads and bridges would be the maintaining of them and being able to have quality materials in them. I was a first responder for the U.S. Department of Justice National Office of Victims Assistance, responding to 9/11, and as far as the 35W bridge disaster. So I saw firsthand, you know, the things that were needed as far as in transportation and things that were affected and the quality of materials. And it was an issue also with the 35W bridge disaster. And it's a concern because even after that, there were floods and things like that happening where some bridges were being washed out or some roads were being washed out. So I think it's more than maintaining, it's looking at the quality of the materials and being able to make good decisions as far as how we further support the transportation.
Thank you both. Unfortunately, our time is running out. I think we could continue for a while here, but if you have questions after this debate, please invite yourself up and talk with the candidates or contact their campaign offices. You can find more information about the candidates at the Chamber's website, shakopee.org. Each candidate will now have 1 minute for their closing statement, and we are going to begin with Representative Bakeberg.
All right, I just want to say thank you to the Chamber again for hosting this event, and thank all of you for coming. I think it's a beautiful day outside, I'm not sure, but making a choice to come here and learn, I really appreciate that. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Lee for running. It's not an easy thing to do, I'm learning. So 20-some years ago, I decided to go into education because I wanted to serve kids. And that's what I've done professionally. And I was tapped on the shoulder and just said, hey, have you ever thought about going into administration? And if I would boil it down, it really comes down to influence. I wanted to use my gifts to influence our community for the better. That's what I've been trying to do in the legislature, is trying to listen, to learn, so that I can appropriately lead. We're not going to always agree on issues, and that's okay. I don't agree with my wife. I'm wrong when we don't agree, but we need to get back to working together, and we need to get back to balance in state government. If we have that, if we have balance, we will produce better results for our community. Thank you. My name is Ben Bakeberg, and I would love your support.
Ms. Lee?
Yes. Please check out the website leeforminnesota.org, where I have more information as far as some of the accomplishments that I've done over 30 years of doing legislation for some nonprofits and drafting some of the bills. I took on this effort because as a legislature, you can do more in solving the issues that people have, and as far as bringing solutions, getting them the appropriations that they need, getting them the programs, helping improve the communities and the economy, better paying jobs, better paying benefits, and so forth. And I have been working hard, you know, and a lot of it has been volunteer work where I've even put in my own money because I care about people and consider it that I'm a servant for you, working for you, trying to bring you what you need as far as the issues.
Time.
Okay,
Thank you both. Just a reminder that the views expressed in tonight's debate are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber sponsors this event as a service to the community and has gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that the forum is always fair. The Chamber does not endorse any candidates. Instead, we seek to provide the information you need to make informed choices when you go out and vote. Thank you to all of you for being part of this process. Thank you to this wonderful high school right here in Shakopee for hosting this. And on behalf of the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau, thank you both, not only for being here tonight, but also your service to the community. I have an announcement. I am pleased to announce an additional forum is now planned. On October 7th, chambers from Dakota and Scott County will host a forum with the candidates running for Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District. It'll be U.S. Representative Angie Craig and Joe Tabrab. More information will be on the website at shakopee.org. Election Day. It's coming up. It's Tuesday, November 5th. Please remember to vote. We will now take a brief intermission, and then we will be here with the candidates for the Shakopee City Council. Thank you all.